Before we get to our top story as we come on air, we are learning that North Korea has launched what's suspected to be a ballistic missile. Now, we'll have more details on this in our later newscast. Now, a second attempt by investigators to detain President Yoon appears to be imminent, with many expecting it to happen tomorrow, Wednesday. But this morning, the police, the investigators, and the presidential security team held talks to discuss the warrant. Let's connect with our Moon Hye-ryeon at the presidential residence in Yongsan. Hye-ryeon.
Good morning, Tammy.
So, Hye-ryeon, let's start with the surprise three-way dialogue. Fill us in.
So this just in, it looks as though the Presidential Security Service, the CIO, and the police have just held a three-way meeting to discuss the execution of the warrant to detain Yoon. And this comes following an earlier statement from the Presidential Chief of Staff in a public appeals that said the Presidential Office is willing to cooperate with the CIO and the police. So Chung Jin-seok, the Presidential Chief of Staff, stated that this includes options for investigation at a neutral location or through a visit. And he further emphasized that Yoon must be allowed to fully exercise his right to defend himself and present his position, as should be guaranteed for all South Korean citizens. And that although his duties have been suspended, Yoon remains the head of state, yet he is being treated like a, quote, drug cartel leader. Referring to the constitutional principle of the presumption of innocence and the Criminal Procedure Act's principle of non-custodial investigations, Chung criticized what he called the oppressive threats of the police and the CIO. He also expressed concerns over potential clashes between police forces and presidential security personnel, as well as the crowds gathering outside of the presidential residence. This comes after the acting president and deputy prime minister Choi Sang-mok directed the police and the presidential security service to ensure orderly law enforcement and protect the safety of the officials involved in the process yesterday.
Well, Hye-ryeon, there is a growing speculation that the CIO will execute the warrant on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. But with the three-way talks having taken place as of this morning, can we say the execution is not happening today?
Right, so it's been more than a week since the second warrant has been issued, but as of yet today, there has been no movement from the CIO and the police, and reports are suggesting that it could be likely that we could be in for the long haul. And ensuring no casualties or violence remains the top priority, and plans include a possible 2 to 3 day operation should the Presidential Security Service resist the warrant's execution. Last night, regional investigative unit leaders gathered at Seoul Mapa Police headquarters to discuss operational strategies, and the meeting reportedly included plans to mobilize around 1,000 officers, as well as strategies for breaching the heavily fortified Hannam-dong residence. And a third meeting is scheduled for this morning, with speculation that the warrant execution could begin as early as tomorrow, depending on the results.
Well, Hye-ryeon, with all these latest developments, what is the situation like on site? I mean, I can hear it's loud there, but how are things looking near the presidential residence area in Hannam-dong?
Well, Tammy, as you've said, it's quite loud behind me. So I've been standing here since the early hours of this morning. And while there were very few people standing out here in the cold at the beginning, it looks as though more and more protesters are beginning to gather, as today marks, the first impeachment hearing of President Yoon. And tensions are rising as the presence of armed guards has become more and more prominent, with photos taken yesterday showing heavily armed security personnel patrolling the area wearing helmets, masks, and tactical gear. So Kim Sung-hoon, the acting chief of the Presidential Security Service, has reportedly taken a hardline stance, making efforts to tighten discipline within the presidential residence. And that's all I have for now, but I'll be back in a later newscast with more updates. Back to you, Tammy.
Thanks, Hye-ryeon, for the report. Keep warm. That was our Moon Hye-ryeon reporting live from the president's residential area.